Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Credit Talk. My name is Larry Smith. I'm your guest host this week, filling in. We're here to talk about credit, all things credit. If you have any questions throughout the show, we hope you'll call us at 312-738-1060. I'm Larry Smith, and I'm a local attorney here in Chicago. I do consumer rights work, so I know this stuff. We're going to talk a little bit today in the world of credit. We're going to talk about merged files. What's a merged file? Well, a merged file is when your credit report gets merged or mixed up with some other person. How does that happen? Well, it happens when the credit bureaus have information of people that are very alike. If you have people with the same name, a father and a son, a junior and a senior, while it's a wonderful testament to the family to name a son after a father or a daughter after a mother, it tends to cause problems because names are used, addresses, and so fathers and sons and mothers and daughters will have the same name and live at the same address for a period of their life. And that's how information comes onto your credit report. When you open accounts with creditors, you have your name, your first, middle, and last. Different variations of your name are used. Your social security number, your date of birth, and all the addresses that you've lived at that you've given to the creditor. Anything you give to them, they have on you. So when two people have a lot of information that's alike, what's going to happen is their information is going to get merged sometimes with the credit bureaus. And it's a frightening thing because if one of the two have bad credit, well, guess what happens? Two people could live across the country from each other. My name's Larry Smith, and I'm sure there's another one out there. I've met a few. If one of them are born in the same day as me, the same birth date, and one of them has bad credit or is a felon, that might very well show up in a report with my name because of that kind of matching information. Here's a story. Here's a horror story for you. I've had a person call me up. They went in to get a mortgage refinanced. And when you go in to get a mortgage refinance, you sit down with a loan officer, and the loan officer takes all your information, and then what they do is they go run a report. And they don't go get a TransUnion report, an Equifax report, and an Experian report. They go to a company that's going to give them a merged report, where they go to all three credit bureaus and put together one nice report, where they pick information from all of the bureaus and put it into one nice, neat report. Well, this person that I know went there to give their information in and try to get a loan, and sure enough, somebody else's information showed up on there. His grandfather with the same name. It gets worse. His grandfather is no longer with us. So what happens when you're no longer with us is the credit bureaus get wind of that and shut down your report. So when this person went to get credit and tried to get a mortgage refinanced, he was told he had no credit score. He was told, as he sat there at the table looking right at the loan officer, you're dead. You can't have credit. So that's what can happen from a merged file. It's quite a frightening thing. It happens a lot in the employment arena. I've been on the show before, and I've talked about how credit reports and credit reporting and the Fair Credit Reporting Act isn't just about credit reports. It's about all kinds of reports that we call consumer reports that deal with consumers. If you have the same name as somebody, same date of birth, 8 out of 9 social security of your social security number, those things are going to merge. So you might go for a job, you might go for employment, and you'll find that they're running a background check on you or checking on your credit, and sure enough, somebody else's information pops on your report and you're getting denied. Oh, looks like we have a caller here. Let's hear you, caller.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi. So I'm watching your show, and that actually happened to me.
What happened?
I tried to apply for a loan, for a mortgage loan.
Okay, so you went and applied for a mortgage loan, and when they went and they pulled your report, you say that somebody else's information was on there.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I went to check my report elsewhere to try to dispute some items on there. That's why I did not get qualified for the loan. So
Okay.
I went to get, dispute these items on there,
Uh-huh.
and it turns out I didn't have anything on there.
So you went to get a loan, and they ran a report, and somebody else's information was on there. So then you wanted to go look at your report to dispute things, to dispute this, and you're saying that when you went and got your report, it wasn't there?
Yes.
Okay, very interesting question. Thank you very much for that. Very interesting situation. And guess what? This has happened. We've seen it happen before. So what's happening there is the mortgage reselling company, the company that's putting together that report, is casting a real wide net. First of all, I want to say that what you did was exactly the right thing to do. Okay, so when you got that report, you were sitting there and they were showing you what's wrong with your report, or telling you, hey, we can't give you credit because of all these other things, and you're saying, well, that's not me, that's somebody else. What's the first thing you should do? Well, that lender, when they deny you credit, or even are not giving you the credit terms that you want, that lender has an obligation to give you in writing a disclosure that tells you that your credit report was looked at, what credit reporting company they looked at, what information it was on the report that caused the problem. Okay, they have to give you that information so you can take that info and then go right to the credit bureaus and say, please give me a report. And if you're denied credit, if you get a letter denying you credit, that's your golden ticket to get a free credit report. Okay, so you can go and get a free report from the credit bureaus with that denial letter. So our caller went and got a free credit report, hopefully, went and got her free credit reports with that denial letter. And when she pulled her credit reports, that other person's information wasn't there. What do you make of that? That sounds crazy, but it happens, and there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it. You see, your credit report is not sitting in a drawer, in a file, all put together as one report, one thing. It's just not, okay? Your report is, your information is data stored in a data warehouse, a big building with data. So when you go to the credit bureaus and you say, I want my credit report, what information do they make you do they make you give them? They make you give them your name, your address, your date of birth, your social. There might be more information they're asking for, but they're asking for very specific information. So when they go into their data center and they pull it out, they're only going to pull out the information that matches directly up with your data. And so when you get your report, you should get the cleanest report. Now, when you go for that loan officer is going to that same data center. But are they putting in your full name, middle name, date of birth? Are they putting in that you're a junior? Are they putting in that in there? Are they putting a full social in? They might be putting a lot less in. They might just be putting in your full name and your address. And if they're doing that, or your full name and your date of birth, or your full name and your social, and if they're doing that, that's casting a very wide net to anybody's information that may link up with that. Remember, 8 of 9 Social Security on the Social Security numbers, previous names, versions of your name, all those things, that stuff can cause information to attach. So when you go to the mortgage company, they're casting a very wide net. And so they're asking for information about you, but they might get information about other people. And that's what happened to our caller. It was a great call. Thank you, caller. And I'll tell you something else, caller. If you're having a problem with that and you're still out there, and you want to talk to our help desk after this, if that problem isn't resolved, if you go back out and try to get a mortgage and it happens again, you can call our help desk at 773-862-4000. People will be there to help you. But if you want to talk to us tonight, right here, right now, I'm here to answer your questions regarding credit reporting, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and hey, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, if you're dealing with that as well. You can give us a call. Number here is 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060. Again, Attorney Larry Smith here to help you. We'll take your calls. So we're talking about merged files and what could happen. We talked a little bit about how you can go for a loan and find somebody else's information on your report. Quite heavy. We talked about what happens when that happens. That a loan company is supposed to give you a news or a letter that tells you that this information's on your report, what's wrong with it. They're supposed to disclose your score to you, and you have the right to go get your credit report and take a look at it. So that's where we left off. What happens when you get your credit report and you look at it and the information is on there. So we talked about when it's not on there. When it's not on there, call 773-862-4000. I mean, if you went to get a loan and they put other person's information on your report, and you went to get your report so you can do your disputing, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but you go and you do your disputing, and you can't do it because the report's fine, well then somebody prepared a bad report, and that's a violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act that just needs to be addressed. There's nothing else to do but to address it as a violation of law. You can contact that reselling company and communicate to them that you have their inaccuracy, and they'll handle the dispute as well. Let me talk about that. So, you find something wrong in your credit report, any background report, any consumer report. You get anything, employment, insurance report. There's rent, when you go to rent an apartment or a home or a condo, whenever you go rent something, there's a company called Leasing Desk. They run a report that tells what kind of tenant you are. Those are all bundled into consumer reports. So if you get a report that's got false information on it, what do? You go right to the company that's reporting the information and you dispute to them and tell them what's wrong. Now, if you're talking about TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, looks like we've got a caller. Caller, come on in.
Hi, yes. So I have a credit card that's about to be maxed out, and I can't finish paying it because of the interest. Do you recommend me taking another credit card out with zero interest just to pay off the other one, or what can I do?
They kind of call it borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. I do a lot of discussions regarding the dangers of credit cards and how you can have this compound interest get up there on you like that. And, is that a bad idea? Go get another credit card at 0% and pay off the credit card with a higher interest rate, and then you have that other credit card with 0%? Sure, mathematically it makes a lot of sense. For sure you could do it. And it does some good things for you too, because what it can do is if you pay off one credit card, whatever the balance is, it goes down to zero. Well, you've just enhanced your credit score a great deal, because if that account is still open, I'm hoping it's still open. Caller, are you still there? No? If that account's closed, well, it's still going to affect your score as you pay down a balance, but it's even better if you have an open credit card that has a running balance that is now open and has a lot of available credit. Available credit to the amount of credit you're entitled to is this second greatest score factor. And if I have time today, we'll talk more about score factors. I don't know. We'll see. But the second biggest score factor is how much credit you actually use. When you have the amount of credit you're allowed versus how much of it you use is a big factor. So paying one of those down to zero is great, absolutely. Now next, the problem is you're going to have another credit card there, and you're going to have another debt, and that's going to come on your credit report. Now, I don't know how much of that line of credit you're going to be using. If you are basically going, you have a credit limit of $10,000 on card one, and you pay that off to zero with another credit card that has a $10,000 limit on it, card two, well, now you've maxed out card two. Now, it's a good thing from a paying it back standpoint, because it's obviously a lot easier to pay back something when you're not being charged interest. So, absolutely. Do know those things run out. Those 0% interests are never permanent. So make sure you're reading the fine print. When you want to do these things, make sure you read those little agreements, because they have little catches, such as if you're ever late with any payment, it's gone. Your 0% is now up to 19, 25, some astronomical percentage rate. So if you're going to do that from a payback standpoint, it's great as long as you really stay on time with it and don't mess up and really read the fine print on what those things say. Great thing to do. From a credit reporting standpoint, though, unless card number 2 has a much higher line of credit, you're probably doing the same thing to yourself. Okay, because you're getting rid of one balance, but you're adding another. But if this card 2 has a much higher credit limit for you, then that's going to be great. It's going to be great for you, and it's a great idea. So that's a great call, caller. Thank you for that. And what I'll do is, since that call kind of took me off of where I was talking about disputing credit reports, I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with the flow, and I'm going to go ahead and start talking about the credit scoring, because I get a lot of people calling me all the time wondering why their credit score is not where they think it should be and who's reporting something wrong, and I paid something off, how come my credit report didn't get fixed? So let's talk about what credit reporting is. Credit reporting, credit scoring. A credit score, like I said, your credit file is not really a file at the credit bureaus. There's not really a sitting report. Same thing with your score. There's not a sitting score. They're not keeping tabs of your score, okay? A score, the credit bureaus, they have their own scoring models, but a credit score is something that's created by the credit industry, not the credit reporting agencies. The most popular one is from a company called Fair Isaac Corporation, which everybody knows is FICO. FICO is Fair Isaac Corporation. FICO scoring is it's a bunch of geniuses that created a mathematical equation, okay, where they can take your credit report and literally run it through this equation and spit out a number. Almost like a GPA, almost like a school GPA, where you have grades and the grades are weighted certain ways. An A in a regular class is not as valuable as an A in an honors class. And so it gets weighted differently, and when you run it through a calculator, you get a certain score. Credit scoring is a lot like that. They take the information that's on your report and it's run through a calculator, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. Every little thing in your report goes in there, and it spits out a score. So, and there's not just one score. I mean, FICO themselves have probably created a couple dozen different kinds of scores. There are different scores for different industries. When you go for a mortgage, they typically use a certain kind of FICO score. When you go for insurance, there's an insurance scoring model. When you go to a bank, there's a check cashing scoring model. There's all different kinds of scoring models that factor and weigh different aspects of your credit differently. So a scoring model, if you even look at your credit reports, there's Empirica and Beacon, Empirica, and there's one more, but those are the credit bureaus created their own scoring models, and they're all different. If you could have the same credit report with a bunch of different scores, maybe you could understand that it's not that there's one score, it's that whatever's on your report and however it's weighted comes out to a number. So what gets into that number? What really matters? So FICO is, again, the most popular one. What does FICO consider? It considers a few different major factors. The first and foremost, most important thing that goes in your credit score and FICO score is whether or not you pay your bills on time. Okay, so paying on time, timely payments, no 30s, 60s, 90s, 120s, charge-offs, collections. Lack of those boosts the score up. So when it run through your credit report through the machine, through the equation, it will look for lates and it'll factor those in to about, if I remember correctly, I think 35% of the score considers your payment history as a factor. So that's one thing you look at. The next thing is, as I was talking about before, credit utilization. What's credit utilization? It's what we talked about. You have a credit card with a maximum amount of credit that you're allowed to use. If you have a credit card with a $10,000 limit, how much of a balance do you carry all the time? Across all of your accounts that you have, how much of balances do you carry at the time? Are you maxed out? If you're maxed out, that's not good. when we run that credit report through the little mathematical equation machine, it's going to find your accounts that you're almost maxed out on, and it's going to negative you. Articles I've read and things that we've heard have told us that the optimum number to be at is about 30% of utilization. You want to use about 30% of your credit, no more than that. If you are using more than that, it's going to start hurting you. If you keep yourself at 30% or less on all your credit cards, that's going to really help your score a lot. So credit utilization is one of the next major factors. Types of credit. And credit utilization counts for, I think, about 30% of the score. So as you can see, it's not quite as important, but it's very, very important. It's at least about a third of what your score goes into. Then the next, it gets smaller and smaller. The types of credit you use. Do you just have a bunch of credit cards? Do you have a mortgage? Do you have a car loan? Do you have installment loans? The credit scoring machine likes to see a variation. It likes to see that you have a number of credit cards that are revolving. Credit cards are called revolving accounts. When you look in your credit report, you'll see all your credit cards are listed as revolving. Your store cards are listed as revolving because it's revolving credit. And then there's installment loans, like your car loan. You pay a certain amount of money every month, and after 5 years or 3 years or however many months you're supposed to pay, the balance turns into zero. Those are installment loans. Mortgages themselves. Do you have a mortgage? Those are counted a certain way. So are you spreading yourself out amongst all the different kinds of credit you could have? That's another factor. I'm not quite sure the amount of that. It might be 20-25%. And then after that, you have your history, your length of time that you have credit. How long have you had credit? So this one, when I speak at the high schools, sometimes I speak at high schools and talk about this stuff, I tell the kids, unfortunately, this is where it's a problem for you. If you're young and you haven't had much credit, it takes time. It's a slow building process. You can't go from nothing to an 800 just because you're 18 years old. Sorry. So it takes time to build. The longer you have credit, the longer you have good credit, the longer you establish yourself, the more accounts you have, the more your credit will build. And that's what makes a good score. And again, depending on what kind of credit you're going for, what kind of score you're looking at, the score can vary. Scores go up to 850 or higher in most scoring models, down to about 250, 300 in some scoring models. In just about every FICO scoring model that I know of, a 700 or above is really good. And if you can get yourself over 700, there's really not much of a reason that you shouldn't be able to get the kind of credit that you want. We've got just a few more minutes here, folks. And so, call me at 312-738-1060. Been a quiet night. I've been talking a lot. Love to hear from the callers. One more call. If you miss me, though, and you don't get in touch with me tonight and you want to call our help desk, 773-862-4000. That's 773-862-4000. So I've talked about just about all I want to talk about. I'll go back and talk about credit disputing if you guys aren't going to call me. So we were talking about what happens. You get your credit report after you find out you're denied, and you do find information on there that's wrong. What should you do? Well, you can call 773-862-4000 for help, or you can go ahead and dispute your credit report directly to the credit reporting agencies. They have online systems where you can go online, and I don't particularly like this because you have a pull-down menu and you're very limited in what you can say if you have to tell a story of why you dispute. You write a letter to the credit bureaus. You send it directly to them. And the credit bureaus have 30 days to conduct an investigation and report back to you. So if you're trying to get that mortgage loan, you're trying to get that house, whatever it is you're trying to do, you might have to put it off for 30 days or so, but you'll have your time to fix it. All right? So, again, this was Larry Smith here for Credit Talk. I had a wonderful time speaking with you guys today. I'm glad to help you out. Hopefully I've learned you something today. Hope you figured something out. Maybe if something touched upon you in your life, we've given you some insight into it. All right? So feel free to give us a call at 773-862-4000 after this. Again, have a great night. My name is Larry Smith, and we'll be seeing you next week.